What's up guys, this is VinylicPuma, and today I'd like to talk about what the highest damage or most damage possible is in Fallout 4. Now before we start, this video is going to focus around maximizing your damage potential in a quote-unquote legit way. In other words, we aren't going to use mods in order to achieve the highest damage possible, and instead, we will be using a combination of skill books, chems, perks, and other stat boosting attributes in order to achieve the maximum amount of damage. Also, this video is going to focus on dealing the most damage possible on the very first hit. Theoretically, you could always deal more damage on subsequent hits, thanks to skills like Gun Fu or Concentrated Fire, or you could just use the Furious effect on your weapon. However, in an attempt to make things simpler, we will just discuss the maximum amount of damage that can be achieved on the very first hit. So I guess without further ado, let's go ahead and discuss what weapon type has the highest damage potential. In Fallout 4, we have access to roughly 6 different overarching weapon types that benefit from corresponding weapon-based perks. For example, unarmed melee weapons like the Power Fist benefit from the Iron Fist perk, semi-automatic rifles like the Gauss rifle benefit from the Rifleman perk, and something like the Fat Man would benefit from the Heavy Gunner perk. Out of all of these overarching weapon types, both unarmed melee and standard melee weapon types can have their damage enhanced the most. This is mostly because of the fact that melee weapons can not only benefit from an assortment of damage boosting perks like all of the other weapons in this game, but they also greatly benefit from increases to the player's strength special stats. For example, you're going to be dealing much more damage with a melee weapon at 11 strength as opposed to just 4 or 5 strength. It's also worth mentioning that melee weapons also have the potential to deal far more damage on sneak attacks as well, and this is thanks to the Ninja perk, as most ranged weapons can increase their sneak attack multiplier by up to 3.5, while melee weapons can reach as high as 10 times. So while a ranged attack with a weapon that deals about 50 damage may come out to a total of 175 damage, a melee attack that also deals 50 damage could potentially deal as much as 500 damage. So ultimately, the potential boosts for melee damage are much greater than they are for most other weapons. And with this in mind, let's go ahead and go into detail of how crazy things can get. In Fallout 4, the highest strength stat that you can achieve without any additional chems or stat boosting armor is 17. Now, without perks, bobbleheads, or magazines, the highest strength stat possible is 11. In order to reach 11 strength, you need to first have 10 strength, you need to take some Day Tripper that will lower it to 8 strength, and then read your special book to then reach 9 strength. And then when the effects of Day Tripper wear off, you will have 11 strength. From here, to get to 17 strength, you will need the Strength Bobblehead, which will take you to 12 strength, the 5th issue of Scav that's located in Nuka World, which can take you to 15 strength, provided that you have less than 100 caps, and the Solar Powered perk can increase your strength to 17 during the daytime. To give you some idea of how strength improves melee damage, a standard baseball bat should deal about 22 damage at 4 strength. At 17 strength, that same baseball bat is now dealing 43 damage, which is effectively doubling your damage before perks like Big Leagues and Bloody Mess. Now from here, you may be surprised to know that it's possible to reach 60 strength provided that you have 6 armor pieces with the Rad Powered Legendary Armor effect, which at max bonus, each piece should be providing 7 strength, and then of course you can have a set of army fatigues that will provide an additional 1 strength. So assuming that you started at 17 strength, plus 1 from the army fatigues will give you 18, and then 6 times 7 is 42, and that's going to ultimately give you 60 strength, provided that you have enough rads. At 60 strength, that same baseball bat that was dealing 22 damage before at 4 strength is now dealing 112 damage, which is roughly a 5 times increase. And just to reiterate, this is before any damage boosting perks like Big Leagues or Bloody Mess. Assuming you added some of those perks like Big Leagues, Bloody Mess, Lone Wanderer, and Rooted, you should now be able to deal 483 damage with that exact same baseball bats. This is an absolutely insane increase in damage, and at this point, you've got to wonder what the best melee weapon would be to boost this way. Enter the Heavy Shocking Sharp Rocket Sledgehammer. At 4 strength, you should be dealing about 88 damage plus 25 energy damage per strike. However, after all of the boosts that we've just gone over, you should be dealing roughly 1,901 damage in a single strike. And to give you some idea, this is more listed damage than a regular Fat Man with both the Heavy Gunner and Demolition Expert perks. However, we can increase this weapon's damage even further, provided you acquire perks like Nerd Rage, Strong's Berserk perk, the Crusader of Adam and Destroyer of Acadia perks from the Far Harbor DLC, and the Pack Alpha perk from the Nuka World DLC. I've seen the base damage get as high as 7,987 damage. Unfortunately, it appears that the damage bonuses don't seem to apply correctly, and it can also be difficult to obtain enough rads for your rad-powered armor pieces with Nerd Rage enabled. But even still, 7,987 damage exceeds the damage of both the Fat Man, the Big Boy, and the Big Boy with the Nuka Nuke launcher customization. Now, your damage could go higher than 7,987, as companion perks like Know Your Enemy increase damage against super mutants, synths, and ghouls, while the United We Stand perk improves damage when you're going up against more than 3 enemies. You can also pick up a number of perk magazines as well, like the Astoundingly Awesome Tails, which will also improve your damage under certain circumstances. Ultimately though, what's amazing about the 7,987 damage figure is that this is before you start adding in things like the sneak attack multiplier or even the critical hit multiplier. And assuming that you had Ninja, you could achieve a 10 times boost on top of the 8,000 or so damage, allowing you to clock in at an astounding 80,000 damage. And if you were spec'd for better criticals, you could receive a 2.5 times damage boost on criticals. So if you scored a 80,000 damage sneak attack, you can multiply that by 2.5, and now it's an even more astounding 200,000 damage. However, you may be surprised to know that we can go even higher than this. Something that we have been ignoring up to this point is chems and other consumables. Not only can chems further boost strength, which will further increase our damage, but you can also find chems that boost your melee damage in addition to your overall damage. For our purposes, I would say there are approximately 11 chems and consumables that are great for boosting damage, and all of them can be taken at the exact same time without any of them conflicting with one another. And specifically, those items are Buff Tats, Calmex, Fury, Overdrive, Psycho Buff, Excel, Firebelly, the Strong Sludge Cocktail, Dirty Wastelander, the Yao Guai Roast, and Grilled Hermit Crab. After downing all 11 of these items and achieving the max bonuses from Firebelly and the Strong Sludge Cocktail, you should be able to go from just 60 strength to 78 strength, and your damage should go from about 7,987 damage to approximately 34,860 damage, provided all of the buffs are working properly. Keep in mind that, again, this is before any sneak attack or critical hit bonuses. And if you added these bonuses, thanks to the likes of perks like Ninja and Cloak and Dagger being combined with the Calmex chem, your sneak attack multiplier can get as high as 13 times. And if you were to perform a critical hit on top of that with the Better Criticals perk, which would add a 2.5 times multiplier, you would theoretically be dealing in the neighborhood of 1,132,950 melee damage. To give you some idea of how utterly ridiculous this is, quite possibly the strongest enemy in Fallout 4, the Enraged Fog Crawler, has only 2,200 health. So the Enraged Fog Crawler has neither the proper amount of health nor enough damage resistance to resist an attack like this. let alone one that's dealing about 7,987 damage. You can even increase this 1 million plus damage figure by collecting the melee bobblehead, which will boost your critical damage, in addition to the Grognak the Barbarian comics, which will also boost your critical damage. And if you had a instigating version of the weapon that we're using here, you would easily clear 2 million damage. And when you think about that, that is absolutely insane. Even with the listed damage of roughly 34,860, you're going to be able to one-shot every single enemy in this game, because none of them have enough health to contend with that much damage. Now, before we go, I do want to talk about some of the more frustrating things that I discovered while trying to figure out some of this stuff. And that is that the bonuses provided by perks, bobbleheads, and magazines don't appear to be all that consistent. There's a pretty good chance that you might be familiar with this if you tend to play more of a stealth sniper build when you play Fallout 4, but depending on the order in which you achieve the Ninja, Cloak and Dagger, and Mr. Sandman perks, you can actually get an entirely different multiplier altogether. So maybe in one order in which you obtain all three of those perks, you may get a 4.8 times sneak attack multiplier, while in another order, you may get a 4.4 times sneak attack multiplier. As far as our purposes are concerned, you could get an entirely different base damage value depending on the order in which you acquire certain perks. So for example, maybe you get 2,200 damage provided you obtain Pack Alpha, Crusader of Adam, and then Berserk, while you may only get 1,900 damage provided that you obtained Berserk, then Crusader of Adam, then Pack Alpha. While I suppose you could make the argument that this doesn't matter because you're dealing well over 1,000 damage, I'd also argue that this sucks because you have to properly plan out the order in which you obtain specific perks. In my mind, the order really shouldn't matter in which you obtain certain perks, but unfortunately, it does seem to. And for that reason, it's sort of hard to say what the highest damage possible is in Fallout 4. Not only are you contending with a multitude of unlisted damage statistics, but you also have to deal with some bugs that can inadvertently affect your damage in unforeseen ways. But alright guys, I think that's going to pretty much wrap up this video. If you liked this video, feel free to leave a like, and let me know, what is the highest listed damage that you've seen? Is it 34,000 like you've seen in this video, or have you seen it even go higher? Leave that in the comments below. Otherwise guys, like this video if you liked it, click the bell to join the notification squad, and as always, take care, and I'll see y'all next time.